All right, everyone, let's talk about Kzarkas and Dandies. These are probably the two items that people end up taking to pen first, and I always see a whole bunch of comments when I'm streaming and doing all the enhancing that I do of people saying things like, hey, I just hit my pen Dandy, I just hit my pen Kzarka. And I always like to say, first of all, of course, congrats. No matter what the item is, it is a huge accomplishment and very difficult to even hit a single pen item. But it sparks this topic, not just among myself, but among other people in the chat of, is it worth taking a Kzarka and a Dandy to pen? And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to do a detailed breakdown, but before I get into the actual optimal numbers and the silver and, how much money you're going to save, that sort of stuff, I want to start off by saying, obviously, the most important thing is enjoying the game and having fun. And regardless of how optimal it might be to not work on or work on certain pieces of gear, if it's going to bring you enjoyment to do it anyway, that's obviously going to be the most important thing. So, I know that a lot of people, though, they are interested in, what is going to be the cheapest path, what's going to save me the most silver, what's going to be the most optimal route to go down. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because when it comes to the cheapest and the most optimal path, working on your Kzarka and your Dandy are definitely going to be two things that you do not want to do. And we'll take a look at the market. Now, another thing I'll mention is you will not have your name on your item if you go down a different path. But basically, you're putting a value on the name of your item. So, the amount of money that you're going to save will actually get to that number here. And basically, what you have to come to the conclusion of is, is my name on my item worth this amount of silver? Because that's basically what you're paying when you decide to make a Kzarka or a Dandelion yourself instead of going down a different path. So looking at Kzarkas here, they are going to all share the same market numbers because we have the coupon that you can end up exchanging for different class types. So if we look here at like the price for a pen Kzarka Longsword, 13.6 billion is the base price, 13.6 billion. And, just so you can see as an example, they're all the same, 13.6 billion. So if we end up taking a look at one of these here and we go to the market price, you can see that there's an order for 13.2, but, this is pretty low for a pen item. And you can see the 3-month distribution here, even now, is actually a little bit higher than at times what they are going for. So a pretty low price. Now, if we go to, say, like a Dandelion now, if we go to Awakening and we go to Dandy, same thing, by the way. They're going to share the same price brackets because of the weapon exchange, the Awakening, and the offhand exchange coupons. So, 12.6 is what we are looking at for these Dandies here. That's the base price. If we take a look here, you can see we've even got one sitting on the market for 13 billion. That is a very, very low price for a pen item. It's very difficult to make a pen item, and there's a lot of them that are selling for significantly more than 13 billion silver. Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, I don't care about selling pen items. I'm going to use my pen gear. Well, wait a second, because I'm going to explain an option here that even if you are, you don't care about selling pen items and you just want to get your Kzarka or your Dandy, the price of other pen items is so high compared to Kzarkas and Dandies. There's such a big difference that even with the market tax of 15.5% or whatever it is, with the value pack, of course, you are going to need that. But even with the market tax, when you sell a different item, even then, you'll have enough money left over to buy your Dandelion or your Kzarka, and you'll have a bunch of silver left over. So let's look at a couple of different items that you can actually do that with the current markets. Now, obviously, this is going to depend a little bit on the market and where you're at. But there's a very important thing that has to happen, which I want to show you guys in order to be able to do this. And basically what that's going to be is that the price of other pen items is going to have to essentially end up selling for more than like 15 to 20% more than what you can currently get a Kzarka or a Dandy for. And that's definitely going to be the case with a lot of things. Like Griffin's Helmet here, you can see that these are currently selling for about 18 billion. Even if you don't get that much, let's say you get 17.7, 17.8 billion silver. That is a big difference from, that 13.5 billion silver that we were looking at when it came to Kzarkas and Dandies. So we got Griffins there. We've also got, like Red Nose. Obviously, these here, if we take a look at Pen Red Nose, about the same, right? 18. So even worst case scenario, you get like 17.7, 17.8. That's still a big difference. Now, the best item right now, and this is obviously going to depend on the market conditions when you watch this video, but it's really all in Uragan's market at the moment. Now, the thing is, you actually have to have Uragan boots to work on, and this is something you're not going to want to use cron stones on. Very important. That's a topic for a whole different video, because that's a different discussion that I'm easily going to spend 10 minutes on. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in cron stones on boss gear and what's good to use and what's not to use. I'll talk about that in a future video. I'm actually in the process of working on it now, but this is really where it's at. If you have a base item, it doesn't matter where it's at, what enhancement level. If you've got one of these to work on here, if you end up hitting one of these at pen, you're looking at, you know, basically 20 billion silver. Even worst case scenario, like, you know, 19.7, 19.8, 19.9 right now. You got an open order right now for 18.7 billion. And even though the base price for these Uragons is more expensive than like a Red Nose or a Griffin, it's only about 400 million more. So, you know, a 400 million difference in the base price, but the pen ones are selling for like well over, you know, a billion, even 2 billion silver more than a Red Nose or a Griffin. So you can see that this is clearly like the best item right now with the market to take to pen. And I say this even if you don't plan on, like, if you're not trying to sell pens or whatever, like, that's fine. It's still important because the price difference is so big between, even not Uragons, but if we go back to Red Nose and Griffins, even between Red Nose and Griffins, that it's actually better for you to work on another pen item and then sell it. And even with the market tax, you're going to have enough money left over to just go and buy your Kzarka or your Dande. And let's actually take a look at a couple of items here. Let's look at like a Red Nose Griffin, and then we'll look at the Uragons to actually see how much money you end up making from this process and still end up walking away with the end result of what you wanted in the first place, which is your Dande or your Kzarka. So if we go to, you know, let's go to Red Nose and we take a look again at that price there of like, you know, let's say we sell it for 17.7, 17.8. Let's get the market tax accounted for here, which is about 15.5%. So even after the market tax, when you sell at that price, and I would never recommend filling a buy order, by the way. So when it comes to the market here, I would always try to list your item. Never fill one of these orders because you're basically giving up, you know, 400 or 500 million silver. Patience is key. Usually doesn't take too long to sell pens, like, you know, a day at the most or so. A couple of days, maybe, but usually just even a few hours for an extra couple 100 million silver. Definitely worth it. So say you get like 17.7, 17.8 with that 15.5% market tax. After the value pack, we're still going to be walking away here with like basically almost 15 billion silver, right? You know, 14.95. So very close. 14 billion 956 million silver. And you can see that that is clearly enough to go and end up buying what you were looking for in the first place, which would end up being a Kzarka or a Dande. You could go and I don't know if there's one of these sitting here, but I think there was some dandelions that were sitting on the market. And you could even buy one that was sitting on the market, right? And still have a bunch of silver left over. Now, I wouldn't do that just like I would with selling items. I would also put a order for a lower price instead of taking one of the ones that's already listed. Same concept, patience is key. You're going to save hundreds of millions of silver, but like you could, right? 13 billion silver there for a Dande. Because you sold a Griffin helmet for basically 15 billion, even after the market tax, you're getting 15 billion, and now you're left with 2 billion silver left over. And you still have what you were looking for in the first place, which is the Dande that you were trying to get. So basically, what this comes down to, right? If you were to use like a Griffin helmet or a Red Nose as our example, which we just did, you still have 2 billion silver that you're walking away with the current markets. This is obviously going to change, which is why it's important to kind of know this process. The key thing, though, is the market tax, right? If you want to do this, the price of the other items like Red Nose, Griffin helmet, Uragons, whatever it is, has to be more than like 15 to 20% of what Kzarkas and Dandes are going for, because when you sell your item, you obviously don't get the full amount. You get the amount with the market tax, and with the value pack, it works out to about a market tax of 15.5%. So if you have like Red Noses and Griffins selling for 20% more than Kzarkas and Dandes, it's going to be worth doing this method, even if you're not going into it with the approach of, I want to sell pen items. Even if you just go into it with that same end game goal of, I want my Kzarka or my Dande, it's still going to be worth doing this. Now, what that comes down to is that, 2 billion number right now, that's basically what you're paying for the name on your item right now. Like, if you really want the name on your pen gear, well, then you got to make it yourself, obviously, right? So, with this method, though, you end up with 2 billion silver or so extra, but unfortunately, you do not get your name on the item. So, at the end of the day, it is all about you and what you are going to get enjoyment out of the game. If you just really like enhancing, if you want to do it yourself, if you don't care about making any extra silver on the side, or if you just really want your name on your item and that's worth 2 billion silver to you, then go for it. You can make your Dandy or your Kzarka yourself. But if you're looking at trying to approach things from like a silver optimal perspective, this is definitely the path to go down. And now, like, the true optimal item to actually do right now with the current market would be Uragons. So, 2 billion silver for your name. Well, if you do have an Uragon base item and you end up taking in Uragons up to pen and you end up selling one of those, you can see, like, right now you're looking at basically 20 billion. Worst case scenario, like 19.9, 19.8. Let's just say even if you sell it for 19.8, you are, however, paying an extra 400 million for the base item. So I'm going to do like 19.8 plus we'll subtract like 400 million for that base item or so. So like 19.4 basically, let's just say that. So even if you were to sell it and the value were 19.4 billion, with the market tax here, you're going to be looking at, 16.4 billion silver basically. So you could go and buy one of those dandies sitting on the market and still be left with over 3 billion, 3.4 billion silver left over. And that's basically what you're paying for the name on your item. Now, I went over several different examples and I really wanted to do that Uragons one to kind of wrap up the video with a big point, which is these numbers, depending on when you watch this video, these numbers might be different. Market prices change all the time, especially if you're watching in a different region, EU, and prices are much different over there. That's going to happen. The important point in the concept of this video isn't the actual numbers of the prices. It's that concept of if items are selling for, if other stuff is selling for like basically 15 to 20% more than what you can end up buying Kzarkas or Dandies for, if you're going for the silver optimal path, then it's just better to work on other items, sell them, and even after the market tax, go back and get your Kzarka or your Dandy. So that's the main thing that I wanted to kind of get to and use multiple examples, because I know if I only showed one example, then people would, I'd imagine people would get too focused on that one example and the one price point instead of the overall concept, which is more important. So anyway, that's enough info for today. I hope that this helped out, guys. I really do. Now, more videos coming out in the future. I did use Uragons as an example today. There's a big difference between like Uragons and Red Nose, and Uragons are an item that you do not want to use Chron Stones on. So that video is coming out in the near future as well. Keep an eye out if you guys are interested in more topics like this and learning more about the game, specifically enhancing, maybe some other things as well. But with that being said, that is going to be about it for now. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks again, everyone. Consider subscribing for more, and definitely check out the live stream as well. So links all in the description. But with that being said, take care, everyone. And until next time.